to imagine completely, totally new. I'm not saying this is impossible, but I mean many of the writers, they do pick up the things from the society and their own experience. Is that right, or what do you think about that?
Yes, a personal influence is always there. I mean, you can write what you have, what you know, right? And what you know comes from your experience. Nobody can tell you something, and I mean, just if you read a book and say that you know it, you will only write that book. You will not be able to write a story. Stories come from your personal experiences. For me, my books, my fictions specifically, are about things that I wanted to be but couldn't. So, I mean, the books that are already published, they all have an artist in there as a protagonist. I wanted to be a sculptor. So the first one is the story of a sculptor. I wanted to be a Bharatanatyam dancer. So I try to fulfill my hidden wishes through things that I write. I try to imagine what would life be if I was a graphic artist, like in summer holidays. But for example, right now, the books that I'm doing with Pan Macmillan, Ahalya, which is coming up on 21st of August. So Ahalya, for example, it's very different from things that I have written till date. Ahalya's story, at least the framework, more or less everybody knows. But then, you know, when I look at it, or the reason why I was propelled to write the Panchakanya stories all of a sudden, is that I understand that a lot of people have very different, I mean, that's natural. Everybody will look at every story from their own personal perspective. That is interesting. But a lot of people don't think beyond. So, you know, Hindu texts, when I see them, when I read them, and I am pretty well read in Hindu mythology and texts, just because I am very much interested in understanding these characters. The reason is more, it's not spiritual or religious. The reason is more philosophical. I love the philosophy of Hindu stories. And what I realize is that the Hindu stories, they have just told you the stories and left you at that. They didn't try to dig into your brain the learning that you should take home from that story. There is no specifically given moral to it. You are happy, you are ready to, I mean, you are free to interpret it the way you want to. Now, depending upon every person's politics, the stories get told. And politics is not linear. There is your personal politics, there is gender politics, there is family politics, there is community politics, there is language politics, there is country politics and inter-country politics, right? It's complicated. So when people look at these stories, like I have heard from a lot of people that Hindu scriptures treat women in a very regressive way. And I was just astounded that though this is not correct. This is just not correct. Because I have been reading and I have been reading the originals and I know that this is not correct. So I picked up Panchkanya because, you know, Panchkanya, when translated, it is translated, and it's not a term that I am using. It is a termed coinage. That Panchkanya is translated as 5 virgins. You will find it when you Google it, right? And all these 5 women have had partners other than men. Ahalya, Kunti, Draupadi, Mandodari, Tara, the Panchkanya. Now, a text that was written thousands of years ago says that these women have had multiple partners either out of ignorance, like Ahalya's, or because of a greater reason, like Kunti's, right? And an ancient text says that the purity of a woman lies not in her body, but in her mind, which is something that today we are talking and trying to establish in feminism debates. Though so many days ago, there was a text that called these 5 women who have had multiple partners as 5 virgins, Panch Kanya. It's not regressive. It can't be regressive. So when I look at this, look at Panchakanya, of course, when I do the interpretation, when I do the retelling, these 5 series of books will obviously have my sense of politics, my sense of gender understanding, but this will be about analyzing these 5 women in terms of women's leadership in mythology. So that is, I mean, in fiction, I mean, I told you this because you were asking about personal influence. Be it fiction or non-fiction, or a fictional or a semi-fiction, personal influence is always there. It has to be there. Whether we directly lift from there, which is creative non-fiction, or we subtly lift from there and don't disclose that lift, which is fiction.
Very interesting. I mean, you brought in, good topics. I mean, I'll try to go through those concept of Panchakanya. I mean, I know a little bit. I'm not